The movie begins as we see the boy sleeping soundly in his bed. We then see the shadow of a woman in the window, and then we see her standing in the corner, an old woman wearing a black gown with a creepy smile on her face. Renee wakes up and goes downstairs and starts unpacking some books from the boxes from their recent move-in. Her son Dalton comes in saying he doesn't like his room and that he couldn't sleep. The woman comforts him, and later we see the family having their chaotic morning. Renee, who goes looking through the boxes for something, sees the books she just organized lying on the floor. She puts them back and tells Dalton to always put the books back in place after looking through them, but the boy tells her he didn't touch them. After Josh leaves for work, Renee is left alone while she takes care of her daughter. She suddenly has a strange feeling and goes upstairs to check the attic, but after finding nothing she leaves. At night, Josh is back from work. We then see Dalton playing upstairs when suddenly the door to the attic starts to open on its own. The boy goes upstairs and tries to climb the ladder to turn on the light. He doesn't notice the broken step and falls on the ground. After he gets up, he starts hearing some cracking noise. Then suddenly downstairs his parents hear him screaming. They both go to check on him and find him on the ground. Josh takes his son downstairs while Renee discovers her missing music sheet box. The next day, Josh goes to wake up Dalton, but the boy doesn't get up. After taking him to the hospital, the doctor tells them the boy is in a coma but has no brain injury, saying his scans are normal and how he never saw something like this before. After 3 months has passed, the boy is still in a coma and is taken back to his house. While Renee is working on her music, she hears some static noise coming from the baby monitor. She grabs the device and cranks the volume up and hears a strange man's voice saying, "There is nothing you can do." She then hears whispers coming from upstairs. The whispers then turns into screams and the baby starts crying. Renee runs upstairs and finds no one. Later, the woman was talking to her youngest son, Foster. The boy then tells her that he wants to change his room since he doesn't like it when Dalton walks around at night. That night, the boy closes his room's door and after hearing a cracking noise, he runs and hides under his sheets. Renee tells her husband about today's events when they suddenly hear a banging on a door. Josh goes downstairs and checks outside but finds no one. Meanwhile, Renee goes to the baby room where she sees a man standing in the corner. She screams and Josh comes running but finds no one there. The alarm goes off and after checking downstairs, Josh finds the door of the house wide open. He looks around, ready to fight the intruder, but finds no one. The next day, the man calls his wife from work, saying he will be late. The man has a flashback of when he was young, sleeping and being watched. At the house after the nurse leaves, Renee was taking care of Dalton when she discovers a bloody handprint on the sheets. Josh, who was sleeping at the school, receives a voicemail from his wife telling him she needs him to come home immediately. Once back, he finds his wife waiting for him. She confronts him about his change in behavior and tells him that she was scared of the house. She says that the house is haunted. She tells him to stop avoiding what's happening, then gives him the sheets with the bloody handprint. That night, Josh dreams about some old memory and we see Dalton in his room as the windows get foggy and 2 handprints appears on them. Renee wakes up screaming and sees silhouette walking outside the window. A man suddenly appears in her room and attacks her. Josh, who was sleeping in the living room, is woken up by the screams of his wife. He runs to her and finds her in a corner, scared, saying someone was there, but he finds no one. The woman begs him to take her out of this house. We then see the family as they move out to another location. Lorraine, the mother of Josh, helps Renee out. The woman is shocked to see her son agreeing to be in a photo. Later, when taking out the trash, Renee sees a boy dancing inside the house. He suddenly disappears. She goes inside and sees him running around. Later, she hears laughing coming from Dalton's room. After looking around, the strange boy jumps out from a closet. Renee, who was at her limit, breaks down crying. Josh later comes back from work and finds Renee have brought a priest to the house. After Renee tells him about what happened, Josh seems not to believe her, but then his mother steps in, saying she too had lived such events and that she dreamt about this house, saying how she saw herself walking around and going to Dalton's room where she found an entity in the corner with him. After asking who it was, the entity told her she was a visitor and that it wants Dalton. The woman then suddenly sees the entity standing behind Josh. They then all hear noise coming from Dalton's room. The door was locked and refused to open. Josh breaks it, and they all see the room in chaos and Dalton lying on the ground, and the bloody handprints were everywhere. Lorraine decides to call for help, and soon a team specializing in the paranormal arrives. Specs and Tucker, the two specialists, go around the house checking for strange signals. Tucker, who was using a special filter, sees two girls appearing out of nowhere. He then goes and tells his friend to call for Elise. Later, the woman arrives at the house. After she sees Josh, she tells him that she knew his mother from a long time. After walking around the house, the woman arrives at Dalton's room. She is drawn by something on the roof and starts describing it. Specs draws everything, and when Renee checks his drawings, she sees a creature with a red face and black limbs. Later, Elise tells them that their son was not in a coma and that his spiritual body is elsewhere and that he was haunted. She explains that their son has a gift of astral projection and can leave his body when sleeping, and that after venturing too far, he got lost in a place that is not meant for the living called the Further. Now that his body is empty, it's a magnet to entities that wants to take over so they could live again, but also other more evil entities like the red-faced demon that wants to cause pain to others. Renee asks her to help them. Elise seems to have a method, but Josh stops her and blames Elise and her team for trying to exploit what is happening to them. The team leaves and Josh goes to his son, asking him to give him a sign that he can hear him. A drawing falls from the wall. Josh checks it and sees the same red-faced demon appears on it, and other drawings of a red face and a red door. Another drawing shows Dalton traveling out of his body. The man breaks into tears and tells his wife that he agrees to what she wants to do. Elise and her team are called back and prepare a session to call for Dalton's spirit. As they all sit around a table and turn off the light, leaving a single lamp, the woman then puts on a gas mask and starts calling for Dalton, while Specs transcribe her words. The lights of the sensors suddenly goes off, and the boy starts to talk to them through Elise. He tells them that he can't see, and that if he keeps talking, the man with the fire on his face will find him and hurt him. The boy suddenly starts calling for help and suddenly stops. Elise starts shaking, and Specs writes down the words said by the demon, who starts cursing and threatening them. Elise screams and faints. Then suddenly they see Dalton standing next to them. The boy hits the table with his hand and sends them flying away. Ghosts start to appear. A ghost attacks Renee and Josh, while Elise orders the entity to leave Dalton's body. The boy collapses and everything suddenly stops. Later, Tucker shows Specs the tape that shows the demon controlling Dalton. Lorraine suddenly arrives, apparently called by Elise. The woman tells her son Josh that she once called Elise to help him. She tells him that Dalton got the ability of astral traveling from him. She tells him that he used to be visited by an old woman. Lorraine handed a box to Josh. Inside were photos of him when he was a kid. On all of them, an old woman appeared in the back, watching the boy and getting closer and closer every time. The only way to save him was to take his memory and his ability of astral projection, but since then he had a fear of taking photos. Elise tells him the old woman was a parasite that befriended his astral body to get to him, and that the same thing is happening now to Dalton. The woman then tells Josh he needs to use his ability to bring back his son from the Further. Elise then hypnotizes the man, and soon he loses patience and gets up saying that he can't do it, only to notice that he was already out of his body. Elise tells him to follow her instructions. The man walks in the darkness and sees his son. The boy points to their old house. Once inside, the man sees the old woman walking up the stairs. He follows her and sees the ghosts of a family that relives their murdering. The man runs away, where he finds the red door. There he is attacked by a ghost and manages to push him back. After he walked beyond the red door, Josh comes into a big room where he finds his son crying. He helps him take off his chains. The man then suddenly sees the demon who was upstairs sharpening his fangs. It suddenly sees him and comes after him. It attacks the man as we see the house shaking on the other side. Josh quickly grabs his son and starts running away. He leaves the house and once again finds himself in total darkness. Ghosts are everywhere around them, and soon they start coming after them. The shaking of the house is getting stronger as Renee calls out for Josh, who hears her and follows her voice, pushing his way through the dead. The house suddenly stops shaking and the lights suddenly went out. Ghosts begins to appear and Elise tells them that the deads had started crossing to their world. Meanwhile, in the further, Josh arrives at home but can't open the door. He gets in from the back door. Dalton runs away while Josh sees something. The boy is attacked by the demon who follows him around. Josh then sees the old woman and asks what she wants. He screams at her to get away from him as she laughs at him. The ghosts gathers around Josh's body and almost were about to grab him when suddenly he comes back. They immediately go to check on Dalton and find the boy has woken up too. The nightmare finally comes to an end. Josh hands his photos to Elise, saying he doesn't need them. The woman was about to grab them when suddenly she has an ominous feeling. The man asks her what was wrong, but she says nothing as she quietly grabbed a camera and takes a photo of him. Josh then gets mad and starts strangling her. After hearing the noise, Renee goes to check and finds Elise dead. She goes around looking for Josh but doesn't find him. She then grabs the camera from the ground and is shocked as we see a flashback that shows us the events that happened through Elise's eyes as she sees an old hand handing her the photos, and after taking the picture of Josh, she was attacked by the old woman. Renee hears Josh's voice as he puts his hand on her shoulder. She looks back and gasps in horror, and with that the movie ends. Thanks for watching, subscribe for more and see you next time, bye bye.